everybody, to the One to Go Show. It is Puka, once again joined by the Bert Lehman and the Ryan Aho. Well, we finally got at least the 2020 version of a late model crown jewel in this weekend. We're going to touch on that momentarily, but we have lots of local racing action to hit. Also, we're going to start out with Ryan Aho. He's got some updates, northern Wisconsin for you. So, Ryan, take her away.
Well, Minnesota really doesn't have a whole lot going on yet, so Wisconsin does. I tell you, one track that's kind of capitalizing is Law Speedway up in Superior. They actually had a doubleheader. They called the Grand Rapids Speedway. They said, hey, are you guys racing? And we're like, yeah, really? Come on. No, we're not racing yet. And they're like, can we run on Thursday? We're like, we're not mom and dad for you, but, hey, by all means, go ahead. And they kind of did a neat deal up there. They let everybody that came from Itasca County, they gave them $5 off ticket prices to kind of like little something for the Grand Rapids folks. And so they had a double header there. And, Shane Sabraski's been absolutely lights out. I know he won the mods and supers one night for sure. I don't know if he double swept or not. I didn't really pay much attention to Thursday. But Travis Budaslavich, excellent race car driver. He won the late model feature up there at Law. Did either of you get a chance to see any of the racing action from up there? I did not.
I did not either.
I did not either.
It wasn't on Dirt Race Central, so I did not watch it. I'll just put it that way. And Saturday, though, Rice Lake, they actually brought in the late models. They had a late model show. I was excited for that because it was the human highlight reel Kevin Buzzy Adams' debut in the late model. And he was running good. It looked like, I think he was in sixth, and it looked like he got himself up into the concrete, got into the fence, broke something. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but he ended up having a DNF. But, shout out to a couple of our local guys, northern Minnesota guys, Derek Vessel and Jeffrey Massengill. They shared the front row. They battled for the lead. Heck of a great race. And on a restart, the Double One Express, Pat Dorr, put it right up top, snuck around them guys, drove away. But they continued lap after lap after lap, side by side. Just great racing between them two. And then just with a few laps to go, Chad Mader coming off a 4. He kind of squeezed it in there, and you can tell he kind of got up in the fence, drove by both of them. He started to chase down Dorr. He got second. Chad Mader started ninth. And, guys, if you remember correctly, down at Mississippi Thunder on that Dirt King show, he was really fast on there, had motor problems. So he's been fast out of the gate. But Pat Dorr starting third, got the win, absolutely dominant, and I just did not expect him to win there. He wasn't my pick. I think one of you guys did pick him. But great racing. It was a great race in that late model feature. And I've actually been to Rice Lake for some late model stuff, and traditionally it kind of slicked over and kind of got hard to pass and move around, but it was really racy. There was a little traction, a little attitude to the track. And did either of you guys get a chance to see that race?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And like you said, echoing the guys from up north here, Derek Vessel and Mr. Massengill, Mr. Kryptonite, we'll call him. But, laps and they raced clean. They battled hard. Race fans, Derek Vessel, I call a putt-putt motor. That's how I describe it to my kids. He's got a crate motor. Kind of a breakout year last year, I would say. Ryan, you probably agree. And, looks like he's starting off where he left off. But yeah, Pat Dorr, just like Superior a couple of weeks ago, got that late race caution. And he just, I don't know if it's something where, Ryan, you know this or not. The tires cool down, he gets back up on the top, and he just rides around people. But like I said, I was impressed. I've been to Rice Lake. I haven't been there since 2006. But I've seen 3 or 4 late model races, and my races there have all been pretty impressive. And, the heats, the track just needs to get a little bit wider, but by the features, it was widened out enough. And like I said, if Rice Lake put on a late model show like that every weekend, I'd be there a lot.
Yeah, it was a good race, and I think Dorr had the best car. Maybe Mader had the best car, but Dorr was definitely faster than the front two. But because they were racing side by side, Massengill was running the bottom. Vessel was running kind of a lane up, but he was kind of bringing it up to the wall. And the experience of Pat Dorr paid off. Extremely, he's not necessarily known for being the most smoothest guy out there. He's kind of a high-side hustler, but he was very patient in that race. He let them kind of sort themselves out. He took advantage of the situation when it came to him, and then he just drove away. So heck of a job by Pat Dorr.
And Jake Radetzky, boy, I kind of dogged him late last year and said, tough year, had to turn it around. And you know, he didn't look good in the heat, and he didn't look good in the feature. And boy, you know, compared, and again, it was kind of like we talked about Davenport a couple of weeks ago. You know, comparing them just against themselves, what they've done in the past. You know, another tough start for Jake Radetzky.
We're just gonna have to call him out, Jake. Hey, you got the Masters coming up this weekend. Step it up, son. I mean, you got to get after it. He had a rough year. He kind of had the big D. He had a lot going on in life, but you know, he's a hell of a race car driver. The cream always rises to the top, so I'm confident he'll be parking that thing in victory lane before you know it.
And then how about Casino Speedway? I heard some action-packed racing out there.
Great racing. You know, hats off to them too. You know, it was really hot out there. They had a ton of wind. South Dakota folks, they don't have trees. You know, they don't really have trees out there, so they got a whole bunch of wind. But I watched the most of the features. In the modified feature was great. Trevor Anderson got the lead, and then he messed up. Tyler Peterson drove by him. Tyler Peterson actually has a couple wins already this year. Heck of a driver. And then on the last lap, Peterson, you know, he was kind of rolling in. I think maybe he was in protect mode because he didn't drive in quite as hard as he was. And Trevor Anderson put the absolute death slide on him coming out of fourth. And it was one of those deals for Peterson. It's like, could he force the issue or did he roll out of the gas and he pumped the brakes? Because if he wouldn't have, there would have been two cars right into the fence. So huge, aggressive move by Trevor Anderson. But I can assure you this, Tyler Peterson is a force to be reckoned with. He's going to have a slider or two for Trevor Anderson. Hopefully Trevor remembers where the brake pedal is because Tyler hit it for him. But it was a great finish. And the late model race was good too. Scott Ward, right? He got out front, the wild child. He got out front right away, and you know he looked pretty good up top. And Chad Becker came from like the fourth row, right on the bottom, extremely smooth. Ward is kind of a high side hustler, not extremely smooth, but super fast. And Becker actually on a restart drove right by him on a restart. I don't know. I think Ward kind of messed up, but then Becker messed up because he left him a whole lane up top. And Ward drove right back by him again, coming down the front straightaway, never looked back. And so Scott Ward, I think that was his first feature win of the year. Becker still running very strong. You're defending Wissota late model national champ. He's going to be top three pretty much every night he unloads a car. He's a top three guy. And great racing action over there at the Casino Speedway in Watertown, South Dakota.
I think I'm going to have to spend more time on DRC. I mean, I know they got great coverage from there. And on Sunday nights, I'm not really doing anything. And the last couple of weeks now, you've mentioned some good racing out there. And I've seen same thing. I've seen good racing out there. So I'm going to have to set the timer Sunday night, 7 o'clock, and catch more racing there.
That's one of my favorite tracks, right? It's a little tiny bull ring. It's a quarter mile. It's smaller than Hibbing. And it races big. I mean, you can run the bottom, the top. They're up on the wheel. They're slicing, dicing, slide jobbing, and there's a wall all the way around it. It's an exciting little racetrack. So you can't go wrong, especially, you know, you get a good late model show, you get a good mod show there. They have some excellent racing out there in Watertown.
All right, Bert, you're under the gun. You got to see some racing at your home track, actually. Your favorite. I don't know. I shouldn't say it's necessarily your favorite track, but your home track.
I like all tracks. But yes, Casino Speedway would be my home track. I live only, a half hour away, so it's easy to get to. Just hop on Highway 29 and boom, I'm there. But Casino finally got to open. I mean, you guys on the western part of the state, you've had racing for 2-3 weeks already, and finally on eastern Wisconsin, we're finally opening up. And Casino Speedway held their opener. They had 118 cars, which is a good car count, considering two other tracks within 2 to 3 hours of them also opened on Saturday night, because 141 Speedway also opened and Plymouth opened. 141 Speedway had 193 cars, while Plymouth had 100 cars. Plymouth had 19 late models and Casino had 18 late models. So both tracks had,
Did you
Go ahead.
Did you say 193 cars?
Yes, in 6 divisions.
Oh my, that's insane.
They had 50 modifieds.
Wow.
Well,
How long did that race program last? Any idea?
Some fans that were there posted that it was over in less than 4 hours.
That's impressive with that kind of car count. That's impressive. I'm gonna have to make the trip up to some of them places.
Yeah, I mean they have 50 modifieds, and that doesn't surprise me because they have the $10,000 to win clash at the creek, not this coming week, but the next week. So a lot of mod drivers are trying to get as many laps as they can to prepare for that race. So but yeah, I mean they had 50 mods, 39 IMCA stock cars, and 37 sport mods. So that's an impressive field. Shawano had 18 late models, 29 modified, 27 sport mods, and 28 IMCA stock cars with 16 four-cylinders. So, but yeah, I was at Casino Speedway. Track was smooth, had a cushion. Not surprisingly, Nick Avalink won so 60%. So
yeah, that's not impressive.
That's not too shabby. So yeah, I mean, good show. The IMCA stock car feature and the IMCA sport mod features were probably the most competitive. I have a question for Ryan. In the IMCA stock car feature,
Right. I do have a race one in particular. Remember where I won the national championship at Proctoberfest, and Dave Moss started on the front row. I started second row, and I tracked him. I stayed on his bumper the whole race. We took the white flag. I slid him in 1 and 2 and took the lead. He got into me in 3 and 4, wrecked us both, but the whole field had taken the white, so the race was over. He got DQ'd. I won the national championship. But you're exactly right. If I would have showed my nose early, that may have never happened. So sometimes you got to be extremely patient, and it really pays off, especially if it's not real racy, or especially if you're like pretty even with the guy ahead of you. Like if you're way faster than the guy ahead of you, drive by him and check out. But if you're pretty darn even with that guy,
I think Bachonsky was faster, but it was the cars that were fastest were running the cushion. So to pass, you had to get down low, and you couldn't necessarily keep your momentum going if you did that. So, Machowski's kind of a master at running the high side at Shawano, and it worked out for him. I mean, nice. I know some of our listeners and viewers, aren't real familiar with some of the drivers on this side of the state, but I mean, the IMCA stock cars put on a great show at Shawano.
Well, we're gonna have to get some video footage, is what we have. You said that you're friends with the video guy, so we're gonna have to start getting some video footage. I'm gonna have to start watching that because I've been to a lot of places, but I've never been to a Eastern Wisconsin track. I've been to the Casino Speedway one time. There was no races going on. It was during the day one day, but that's it. And there's some great racing. I mean, you just talked about how many cars are within just a few hours away. What is that, 190, 100, 100? So you got like over 400 race cars that were racing on Saturday night within just a few hours away. So they have a ton of racing over there. And me and Puka, I remember we grew up watching some of the greats from Eastern Wisconsin come our way. Pete Parker, MJ McBride, people like that. So we've seen it. We've seen them guys, but we got to get over there. Puka, we're going to have to make a trip, man.
And I have to make a trip. Yeah, it was, like I said, hopefully fans will get you some more footage and you'll get to know the drivers and get to know the track a little bit. And we'll get everybody on the same page here as far as racing.
Yeah. And,
well, Bert, when is the Clash at the Creek again? That's not this coming week. The Masters, it's a week after the Masters?
correct. It's the Wednesday and Thursday after the Masters.
Oh, it's a Wednesday, Thursday
Yes.
deal.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting.
And I will be at the Clash at the Creek covering it for Dirt Monthly magazine.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right, fellas. Well, I guess I'll take over here. I'll fill you in. I was fortunate enough to hop on Flow Sports for the Eldora stream, which took place, if you were listening last week, of the 26th annual Dream. So 2 preliminary nights, Thursday and Friday. Friday night, one by 30-lap feature, one by one by the high side tickler, Kyle Strickler. And as they said on the broadcast, he completely social distanced. He was gone and extremely pumped after the races. Fist out of the window. A lot of emotion, and it was a cool win. Really cool to see, especially
Mod guy.
Yeah.
Mod guy. Mod guy. I'm not going to point this out, but I want to say mod guy. He's a modified guy. Another open wheel guy winning a big late model race. The high side tickler, Kyle Strickler. He's a wheel man, and he put a beat down on the boys. Wasn't so good the next night, but he got her done the first night. So I just want a mod guy.
He definitely did, yes. And the second night, Friday night, was won by Brandon Overton. Then on Saturday night, I guess I'll start here. The T-Mac ended up winning the big race. And you guys can kind of go through the results, listeners. We don't get into the results too much, but just some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that I saw. In Brandon Overton's heat, he came in real hot into turn one, almost rolled the car, had her way up, got it sat back down, and then, of course, he pushed, and he almost put Madden into the wall. I mean, Madden barely squeezed out of there, blowing a bunch of rooster tails. Madden went on to win that heat. Shannon Babb got DQ'd after the B feature. He was light on the scales. Another blue
Oh, boy.
at Eldora, but he did get the provisional. In the feature, we're talking about Strickler, Pearson, Moran, and, well, it wasn't so much Moran, but Pierce was right on Moran's tail at one point and was, came in hard and was starting to drift. And he said he thought he had a handle on the car. I read an interview, but when the air got taken off the nose, he didn't, and he put Strickler into the wall. And that was about lap 10, hence a DNF interview with Strickler in the pits. He was not happy. Did you see that, Ryan?
Yeah, the air came off the nose, this and that. It was a slide job where he swung and missed, and he just drove his right rear right into the left front of Strickler and fenced him is what he did. So he can literally say, oh, yeah, the air came off the nose and this and that. Stop it. Come on. This ain't Talladega. We're talking about a half mile, okay? He drove in. He's aggressive. He was charging. He was on the move. I believe he started 17th, and he was rolling right to the front.
Now, this was lap 10.
Yeah, yes. And it was early in the race. And
this was probably for about 10th place, and it was lap 10-ish. Yeah,
exactly. So he was putting caution to the wind, and he can, make excuses, but dude, just own it. You drove in, you tried to slide them, you came up short, you fenced them. It is what it is. Move on. And and so I saw that whole deal, and it was, I kind of cringed. I'm like, there goes my mod guy. Now Bobby Pierce, he's phenomenal in a modified also, right? But yeah, that was definitely, I just hate it sometimes when people make excuses, especially when all this stuff is streamed. We can physically watch the race, right? So you sit and make all these excuses. It's like, dude, stop it. Come on.
Bert, did you see that incident?
I did not see that, but I will say that won't be the first. That wasn't the first, and it won't be the last time a slider goes bad at Eldora Speedway.
No, definitely not. And Puka, I'll let you finish up, but I'll talk a little bit more about Bobby Pierce in a minute here.
Yeah, we'll come back to Pierce. Here's kind of what I had as far as the biggest winners on the weekend. Longhorn chassis. Longhorn, we talked about Devin Van House last weekend in the Wazota area, running a Longhorn. He's kind of on his own. There aren't a whole lot of them. Well, Longhorn had the sweep of the weekend, all 3 nights, so very impressive for them. B-Shep had an interview on Thursday that aired before Friday's broadcast. Last week, we also talked that, we talked in the past on the show about you shouldn't have taken that quarantine time off, and I talked about how I thought that the Bloomquist cars would be doing a lot of testing to try and get that droop rule down. Well, we learned during that interview that not too long before this stream, Bishop was indeed at Eldora testing. So, and that kind of showed as you can see in the results. Flow Sports, we talked last weekend about just some of the, the $150 and what were they doing? And I guess I thought a little bit more about it, and I thought, well, it's $150 for the race, but think about if you went to the race, how many toilet waters you would have drank, your hotel, your food. So really the $150 for a race fan, maybe it wasn't so bad if you consider all the travel, everything that goes into it. But as far as Flow Sports, now that I went on to Flow Sports, because there's Flow Racing, and then there's Flow Sports, and like Ryan had mentioned last week, don't they cover a lot of sports? They cover a lot of sports, including some hockey stuff, which I'm a hockey guy. So I don't know obviously what their numbers are going to be, but I think they really expose their channel now, their platform, to a lot of new people. If we were stuck in dirt on dirt, we would have never flipped over there. But for a branding marketing perspective, I think Flow Sports, it was a brilliant idea. It would have been even more brilliant to do it for $59 or $49 to get more people, because now after looking at it, it's like, there's stuff like cycling and even lacrosse. Like, you can't watch lacrosse on TV very often. I used to have arena lacrosse, they break out in fights and stuff, but like one of my kids is interested in lacrosse, so now I can get some lacrosse for him. So I don't know, you guys want to comment? Then I'm just go through the biggest losers on the weekend. What do you think?
Bert,
you're shaking your hand.
Well, I just wanted to say, yeah, looking at it that way, $150 may not seem that much when you consider travel costs, hotel, and all of that thing. But watching it at home on the internet, that doesn't replace buying a freshly squeezed lemonade at Eldora Speedway, which is a tradition of mine. Every time I go to Eldora, I get the fresh, go to the stand.
Not a toilet water?
Huh?
Not a toilet water?
Nope. Freshly squeezed lemonade.
Okay. You guys familiar with the toilet water? It's the big drink there.
No.
They made it on dirt.
Yeah, they actually featured it. So it's got like, when the one time I've been there, I was standing next to a guy and they made this drink and they threw a Tootsie Roll in it. And I'm like, what the heck are they doing? It's called the toilet water. It looks like it's red Malibu, blue Malibu, some orange juice, and a splash of Sprite. Some people put a splash of vodka, but then they throw a Tootsie Roll in there for the floater. But and yeah, they sell them like crazy, the toilet water. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, last year at the World, they ran out of White Claw.
All right, Ryan, go ahead. I see you're chomping at the bit.
Well, here's the deal. Flow owns dirt on dirt, right? So, yeah, I get it. I'm a capitalist. I'm all about making a buck. I am. I get it. But I looked at dirt on dirt schedule, right, of events, and there is literally not one single race on there for the whole, like maybe at the first couple days of the month, I guess maybe I missed that. But from now to the end of June, there ain't one race on there. Not one. So they own dirt on dirt. People are buying dirt on dirt. They got some great coverage. They got some great stuff. And I get it. You can look back at the archives, and I get all that. But the fact is, they don't have one single race that we can watch. So being that they own dirt on dirt, you would think, hey, this is the one race. There's not a lot of activity going on in June. Here's our coverage for June. So to me, I look at it, I just shake my head. I'm like, there's a certain point in time where greed is going to get the best of you, right? And I looked at that, and I'm like, this is just flat out greedy, if you ask me. This is just ridiculous. There's a lot of race fans out there that are all about buying it, watching the race. They'll do whatever they can. But eventually, some other platform is going to come on board, and these people are just going to get pissed off at this deal. So I look at it, I just shake my head. I'm like, you guys own dirt on dirt. Dirt on dirt has absolutely no racing in the month of June. And then the only one race that Flow has, we got to pay $150 frickin' dollars to be able to watch it when we already have a subscription to Dirt on Dirt and you don't have anything on there the whole month. I think that's a big fail on their part.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, because I know some of those races in the past have kind of popped up quick. So I guess, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see kind of what's, happening schedule-wise and what's going on. Of course, there's always some races down in the South. Of course, Georgia's open and South Carolina's open. But yeah, through those text messages you were sending earlier, you made a good point there. But like I said, there's flow racing, there's flow lacrosse, there's all these flows now. Like, I think I'm going to be a subscriber to Flow now forever, just based on.
I looked at all that stuff. I know what you're talking about, but I looked at, like, there's bowling and there's lacrosse and there's soccer, and there's college wrestling, and there's
wrestling. Right.
like me. There is zero chance that I'm going to watch any of that. Zero. If I'm going to watch football, I'm going to watch something NCAA, like one of the top teams, or I'm going to watch NFL. Right? I ain't going to watch some low. I'm not watching that. It just ain't. They don't have NFL covered. I'm not going to watch it. Same thing with baseball. We're talking like it's probably all the scrubber league type stuff that, that's what it is. So yeah. I'm sure that some people might want to watch it. That's all fine and good. I can assure you it's not worth my time. I got enough stuff I got to watch. I'm not going to watch that.
All right, guys, I'll go through the biggest losers and then we'll move on. So biggest losers on the weekend, obviously the first guy comes to mind. We talked about it, Scott Bloomquist. He did not qualify any of the nights. He was terrible in the heats. He was terrible in the Bs. He wasn't even close. Chris Madden was scheduled to start on the pole. First off, he came out for the heat, stalled on the backstretch, had to get a push, won the heat. He apparently, they fixed whatever problem, or they at least thought they did, drove over to Tire Tech right before the lineups, got into Tire Tech, no problem. The car would not fire. They had Weiss's whole team there. They had Shane Clanton's old team there. Remember, they were teammates a year ago still. They still were. I guess Bloomquist guys were there. They had an army of guys, could not get the thing started, did not get the call, so that moved Bishop from starting third to moving first. So obviously, a huge disappointment for him. Our birthday boy last week on Wednesday, we talked about Darrell Lanigan turning 50. Terrible, actually left on Friday. His woes continue. Earl Person Jr., another guy we've talked about all year, just awful again. I'm actually starting to feel sorry for the guy. Even Jonathan Davenport, he had a good run the first night, on Saturday night. He led laps, but then he faded to ninth at the end after leading laps. He was awful Thursday and Friday. Even in an interview, he said he's having a hard time with that new Longhorn. And just one other note, Zach Dome, who's kind of a local out there, I think he's a Pennsylvania guy, running a Charlie Schwartz late model. I didn't even know they still made them. So, Bert, any other commentary on the stream?
Well, I just want to say, because Thursday and Friday races were only 30 laps. The features were only 30 laps long. Eldora is definitely, the longer the race is, the more the track is to multiple grooves and passing. Yeah. You noticed in the 30-lap feature, nothing against Strickler. You win at Eldora, it's a great victory. But, the track was a hammer-down track. When Eldora is at its best, it's smooth it's black from top to bottom.
With a cushion.
With the cushion about 2 feet away from the wall.
Yes, right. Yes.
And the drivers who run the cushion, you live by the cushion, you die by the cushion. Because it's a fine line that you have to walk every lap. You have to hit that cushion exactly perfect. And, as Bobby Peart, we'll look at his quarter panel. And then Dale McDowell, he's always running the bottom of the track. And you don't notice him in the race until the end. And then all of a sudden, McDowell's gaining, So if you can set up on the long races, if you can set your car up to be successful on the bottom, you have a better chance because there's a little bit more forgiveness if you don't hit your mark every single lap. Now, granted, running the high side is fun to watch.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Talking about fun to watch, Bobby Pierce, let's face it, 17th to 2nd. But he's a fly swatter. He's exciting to watch, but he's like swatting flies and driving through people, and the right rear of his car was folded all the way into the fuel cell. He smacked the fence. I don't know how many times. He is absolutely. They literally have to change his nickname. I'm just telling you. The smooth operator makes, maybe in the past, right? But the smooth operator now, it is absolutely. It's almost comical. It's literally like calling a fat guy tiny. It absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. But man, was he fun to watch. Charging from 17th to 2nd. The guy was up on the wheel, had a legitimate shot to win. But here's the deal. As fun as it is running the top, as fun as it is to watch, the race was not won there. The race was won a lane off the bottom. T-Mac come from 13th, I believe, to 1st. And he didn't even look fast. See, that's the thing. B-Shep was rolling the top, and so was Bobby Pierce. They're banging the cushion, and slapping the wall and pushing, and they're just getting huge runs off the corner when they hit it right. And T-Mac was steady, lap after lap after lap after lap, just rolling a lane off the bottom. And finally, them guys made enough mistakes. They were faster. There was no doubt. When they hit their marks, they were faster up top. The problem is that cushion is treacherous up there, and it bit them one too many times, and T-Mac got her done. And talking about the biggest losers, how about all of Team Zero, right? I mean, you talk Shannon Babb, he pulled the Bloomquist and was light at the scales with the Team Zero car, right? And then you got Madden, who started on the pole, and I don't know if it was ignition. Sounds like maybe MSD box. I'm not really sure. Which is just an ignition box is all that is, the electrical. And then Bloomquist, we talked about it on the show last week. I mean, let's face it. If he's not the best late model driver ever, he's in the top two, right? I'm a Moyer guy. Bloomquist, you got to give the guy credit. It's those two or 1 and 2, whichever way you put it, okay? But is his time done? I mean, is it over? Is it finished? I mean, is he ever going to win a real race again? Like I said at the end of the show last week, he won some cherry picking show down south last year at the end of the year where he was just trying to get back in the rhythm of winning and get back behind the wheel. There's nobody there. But he has literally not been competitive in a long time. And it's really disheartening, because one of the worst things that can happen is somebody just stays too long, and the new fans come in and they're like, who's this clown, right? And it's like, what do you mean who's this clown? It's Scott Bloomquist, the guy, one of the best ever. And they're like, whatever, right? It's embarrassing. I mean, he's got to figure things out, because it's absolutely embarrassing for him. He's a competitive guy. He can't be too happy about it, and it is absolutely just disheartening watching him suck so bad. And so that's where I'm going with that. And I'll be honest, I misjudged, right? I've said in the past, I'm not necessarily a huge half-mile fan. I'm not a huge Eldora fan. I told you guys both, I'm like, it's a half-mile, trains up. It's not very good racing. But Saturday night's feature, it did not disappoint. I mean, it was a phenomenal feature. So I was wrong. I said it wasn't going to be a good race. It was a good race. It was exciting. But definitely, I'm very glad that I was able to jump on dirt, right, a day later and watch the race. So I was not going to pay $150 to watch it live, but I'm very grateful that I was able to jump on dirt a day later, or maybe 2 days later, whatever it was, a day later I think it was, and watch that feature, because it was definitely exciting. And it's just, to me, it's still, I mean, do you guys get the feeling it's just like still weird seeing that kind of a race with no fans? I mean, it just ain't the same. I mean, T-Mac getting out in victory lane after that huge win, hats off to him. I mean, he's a good dude. I like seeing him win, and just nobody there cheering him on. It's just, I'm looking forward to seeing fans at racetracks all around the country. What's you guys' thoughts on that?
I agree. And the nice thing about Eldora is, you can have a ticket to the grandstand, and for $5 extra, you can convert that into a pit pass. So, I mean, you have access to the drivers. You can walk around and all day long and just talk to drivers and look at cars. And so, I mean, Eldora is just such a different experience than any other, than the weekly stuff, for sure. I mean, granted, Eldora and the USA Nationals, those are the only crown jewels I've ever been to. So I can't compare it against other crown jewels, but I mean, Eldora is just an experience. And without fans there, I'm sure it was really different for the drivers, because, well, they could actually work on their cars and not get interrupted. I guess that's one good thing, but I know the drivers love having the fans there, and they love talking to the fans. And so, yeah, I'm sure it was a lot different for them also.
That's what makes racing so great. I mean, you go to the big events like that. I remember as far back as the USA Nationals when I was a little kid. I'd be walking around before the races with my dad and going up to the drivers. Hey, can I get a picture? And this and that and the other. And hey, can you stand by your car quick? racers, the racing world, that's what makes our sport 100 times better than every other sport out there by a long shot. Is the drivers actually thrive on that fan-driver interaction, and that's one thing that right now is missing so bad. I saw some tracks that had to cancel or postpone their Meet the Drivers nights, and it's like, oh my God, like we're doing everything we can to try to build the fan base and get more interaction, and we can't. But are you guys going to the World 100 this year?
If they have it, that's my plan, is to go to the World 100. Yes.
Yeah. It's the 50th. I'd like to, but like I said, the coverage is so good. I just,
but you can't smell. You can't get the smells. You can't hear the motors running.
I'll have to go to Superior. While I'm watching the Superior feature, I can watch the Eldora on my phone.
Bert, we're going to have to talk when that gets closer, because now I'm a lot closer driving distance to Eldora where I live. So that's a race that's been on my list. I mean, I've always wanted to get to the World 100. I mean, it's the probably the crown jewel of late model racing, in my opinion, especially if, like Puka, it is the 50th this year, right?
It's the 50th, yes. And
well,
remember the split the pot was not claimed last year, so the pot starts with that winner's balance. And what, do you guys remember what it was? I mean, it was
80-some thousand.
And it was thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's what the pot's going to start at this year. So maybe I should go, or at least be in Ohio for the weekend.
Well, you can, from what I understand, is you can buy the split the pot ticket online.
Yes, they were doing that this weekend, but they're only allowing Ohio residents.
Oh.
So, yeah. So I suppose, I don't know, with gambling rules or whatever, how that works.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Only allowing Ohio residents. But I think they had like a $4,000 pot even on Saturday night with no fans.
But one thing I know about the split the pot is you will absolutely for sure not win it if you don't buy a ticket.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. In the name of time, we got to move on from Eldora here. Now, one thing I did see at Eldora, and one of the B features is they came around and I can't remember who it was, but they were not ready when the flag was ready to be dropped. And of course, we see that occasionally at tracks everywhere. And Ryan, Aberdeen, Brown County Speedway out there has decided to, well, they come up with a new rule. Why don't you, the Outlaw Starts, why don't you kind of go through that for the race fans and talk about that just a bit?
Well, I don't know if that's a new rule, right? I mean, it's been around forever, but they're just basically they're putting the advantage to the leader, right? So what they're doing at the Brown County Speedway, who I believe they opened up this past weekend out in South Dakota as well. But what they're doing is they have a cone in the middle of 3 and 4, and then a cone coming off 4, and on the restart, the leader can fire anywhere in between there. I love it. I think it's absolutely phenomenal, because I've been to tracks that have cones all over different places. I mean, I've seen cones in the back straightaway. I've seen cones coming out of 4. I've seen cones like literally out on partway onto the front straightaway coming off 4. I think I've seen World of Outlaw sprints where the cone is in the middle of the front straightaway. And the problem with all of those is the leader was not allowed to fire until they got to the cone. So the second place guy, what they would do is they would leg back, even if it was a car whip, right? Because you can't leg back too much, otherwise you get called for jumping. But they could leg back, and they knew when the leader was going to hit the gas, so they could fire, and they could already be on the pump carrying momentum before the leader got to the cone. And I don't know how many times you'd see it. The second place guy's like basically next to the leader, right past the cone. It's like, well, that guy jumped. Well, no, he didn't jump. He knew when the leader could hit the gas, and he judged it. I love what they're doing at the Brown County Speedway, because now the leader has basically, you got a pretty big variance of distance where you can fire. So it's really that second place guy's really going to have to pay attention. Is that guy going to fire right away? Is he going to wait to the cone? What's he going to do? And it gives the leader an advantage. And I believe the leader should have the advantage. He's the leader. Leader should start the race. Now, that leads me to this. You take any sanctioning body, right? It could be WSOTA. It could be UMP. It could be IMCA. I don't care what it is. Why on earth is there different procedures at all these different tracks? It makes no sense to me. And I don't care how they do it, right? Everybody's got their opinion on the right way and the wrong way to do it. But in my opinion, as a driver, and you guys are fans, so you guys it may not mean as much to you, but as a driver, I like consistency. I like knowing when can I hit the gas? When can I pass? What happens if there's a yellow on the last lap? Do they go back to the last completed lap? Do you race back to the flag? What do you do, right? How many people tech? How many people go to scales? Where is the tech area? Where is the start-finish line, right? We had the deal there, and that was his own mess up with Ricky Thornton Jr., putting the transponder too far back. But there was a little controversy before people knew what happened is where is the line? So there's so much discrepancy between all the procedures. It absolutely makes no sense to me whatsoever why these tracks can't get together. And WSOTA, right, the sanctioning body, and I'm just going to use WSOTA, all sanctioning bodies are equal in this, right? But if it's a WSOTA ran event, it should be, here's the procedures for the race. It's that simple. Why make it different everywhere? We shouldn't have to try to guess how things are done at every single track. I was a guy that would typically race 20 to 25 different tracks over the course of the year, and I'd see 20 to 25 different ways of doing things. It made absolutely no sense. But with all rolling back to what the Brown County Speedway did, I'm a huge fan of that. It's just better for racing. It's more exciting, gives a leader the advantage, and that's just my thoughts. What are some things, guys, that maybe you've seen that has there been some controversy? Bert, you mentioned a little bit of something, that happened at Shawano. There might have been something that happened there.
Yeah, I mean, Shawano doesn't have a cone. They just kind of, leader sets the pace, and then when they get somewhere in between corner 3 and 4, coming out of 4, then the flagman will give the green flag. And this was in one of the late model heat races, and the leader, Joel Bennett, or the pole sitter, Joel Bennett, he was setting a slow pace, and the guy on the outside kind of took off, and he was definitely way ahead of the leader or the pole sitter when they got on the front stretch. And I think Joel Bennett thought that they were going to, because they'll wave the green no matter what, just so cars don't crash. And then when they get on the back stretch, then they'll throw out the yellow if it's a bad start. And I think Joel was thinking that they were going to throw a yellow for a bad start, but they didn't. And then he actually did stop in corners 3 and 4 to bring out the yellow so they could restart the race, but they put him to the back for causing the yellow. And so, yeah, he parked his car by the flag stand for a while and looking up at the flag man, and reluctantly he continued on in the race in the back, and then he had some discussions with officials afterwards. So,
well, that's interesting. So there's drama in eastern Wisconsin, just like Minnesota and western. Okay, so I was feeling bad. I thought you guys maybe were left out on some of that stuff. So
oh no, there's plenty of drama in eastern Wisconsin. I mean, speaking of starts, I mean, I can remember this might be back in the 90s yet. But Casino Speedway, they have a light hanging probably about 3/4 of the way down the backstretch, with green, yellow, red. And actually, for a while, they experimented with starting the race on the backstretch. The cars would come around corner 2, and then the flagman would flip the green light on, and then they'd start racing on the backstretch.
Well, see,
they didn't do that very long.
I want to play on that. And Ryan, I know we talked about this earlier in the week when we brought up this subject, but back in the day, the cars used to start, like when I was a little kid, they used to get into 3 and 4, they were on the gas and they got going. And then there was a time in the late 90s, early 2000s where Hibbing actually had a cone on the back stretch, and you hit the gas. And to me, now you've explained why the cone is a bad idea, but to me, in the age where we have time limits and curfews and such, it just seems to make sense that we don't need more parade laps. Maybe we need 2 flag stands. I don't know. Like you said, there's race receivers these days. We need to get the program going. I compare it to hockey. The fastest growing sport, one of the most popular sports right now, is UFC fighting. I think you would both agree. So what has hockey tried to do for the last 20 years? Take as much fighting out of hockey as you can. Now, why would you do that? It's kind of the same with racing. Why would you try to slow down the program as much as possible? I don't really care that 2 cars come nose to nose to the front stretch and eventually, hit the gas. That doesn't matter to me. as long as they're nose to nose wherever they start, let's get the race started. Let's get the program going. We don't need 50 more caution laps.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And that's where some tracks are way better at it than others. You know, when the yellow comes out, this is my opinion. If I'm the head judge, because I've heard a lot of head judges being in the race car with a receiver on, right? When the yellow comes out, and the best way to do it is as soon as the yellow comes out, the race promoter should say, everybody gets single file. It don't matter who you get behind, just get in line, right? And then all they got to do is look at the lineup really quick, and they can say, okay, 44 ahead of 37, 8 ahead of 15. Everybody looks good. Second place pick in or out. Everybody else double up. It's that simple. But I see some tracks where they start reading them off. 15, 23, 95, 1, 14. And then they do that. They get them all single file. And then they read them off again. And they're like, okay, 14, 15 in, 2 out, 3 in. And it's like, oh my God, like what are you doing, right? And they don't need to do that. That's where the extra time comes into the program, is you got to have somebody with a set of nuts that's got some nuts. And you take Chris Steppen, okay? Love him, hate him. Everybody's got an opinion of Chris Steppen, but one thing that he has is a set of balls on him, and he don't take no crap from nobody. Literally, he's the one who says, get in line, and if somebody starts jacking around, he ain't very nice, and it don't matter if he likes you or not, right? He'll be like, Puka, get your ass in line or get off my freaking racetrack.
That's what we need. We need more of that.
Just like that, right? And, you know, he probably should be a little bit more cordial, but people get the point, and they know not to dick around. And you'll see at his shows, guess what? If he's on the receiver, if he's the one talking, you don't see 452 parade laps because he's assertive, right? If you have somebody that's on the receiver that's not assertive, that's the problem. That's what causes that whole deal. So, but as far as when they used to have the lineups on the back straight or the cone on the back straightaway, if you look back at some of the old videos, that brought a lot more yellows. And the reason is they'd hit the gas, but then they'd immediately hit the gas and then turn, and half the time there was a yellow before they even got back to the flag. And that's where that was really running into a problem.
Okay. Well, maybe we got to start them on the, like I said, 2 flag stands, middle of the backstretch. Wave that green. All right, fellas. So now we're going to preview kind of what we got going on this weekend. Bert, what you looking forward to?
Well, I'm not going to the Masters, but I'm interested in following the Masters and, seeing how that goes. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually get to a track this weekend. It's my granddaughter's birthday on Saturday, so we're having a birthday party, and Papa can't miss that. So, so I'll be following racing online and keeping up to date with the results.
Right. Hey, how old's the grandkid?
She will be 3.
So she went to her first race last week, right?
Well, she went to a practice. We thought it would be good to start her off, take her to a practice and see how she likes it. And she did very well there. We were there for several hours, and, she was interested. I think she'd actually be more interested if it was an actual race, because you wouldn't have cars spread out all over the track. You'd have one focal area, for the most part, to watch. So,
I'm just going to say, if you were a nice grandpa, Bert, you would take the grandkid to Cedar Lake because, during the day you can go on the Apple River. You can go, there's lots of recreational stuff in the area, the Somerset area. You can maybe go to a go-kart track. You can do some bumper boats. You can, and then the whole atmosphere. I mean, break the kid in right. Come on.
Hey, I for her birthday present from me is that set of racing books that you had talked about earlier when we started doing the podcast. So,
attaboy.
So I'll be reading her racing books when she stays over.
There you go, the Captain Insano series. I love it. Yep. So Puka, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, yeah, same thing. I'm going to try. I've also got a birthday this weekend from one of my daughters. So it's going to make it tough. But, based on the weather, and I haven't really looked, I want to try to get down at least one night down here to the Masters. So for those of you race fans, USRA late models, USMTS modifieds, just the NASCAR branded late models. We go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, $3,000 for the mods and lates. Not the USRA, not the USRA lates, but as far as mods and lates, it's $3,000 Thursday to win, $5,000 Friday to win, $10,000 Saturday to win. And not just the racing down there, but I know from knowing the cooks a little and knowing the Coffins a little, this has always been a tough weekend for them as far as, trying to figure out how to, I don't know if anybody's ever met. I know the cooks never did. I don't know for sure with the Coffins. The Cook never made money on this event. It started as an invite-only late model event, 50,000 or 51,000, because I think they wanted it to be the second highest paying race. I think at that time the world was like 53 or 54 or something. Oh no, the Dream would have been ahead. I think they went to 51 one year to beat the world was at like 50 or something. Whatever. Bottom line is they weren't making money on it. And we talked a little bit last year. We touched on it, or last week we touched on it, where it was a late model show. Then then it was lates. And I remember being there in like 2007. It was lates and sprints. It was WGRL. And then, oh boy, I was there maybe 2011 or 12. They had moved it to the first weekend of the Hell Tour. So Friday, Saturday was the first 2 nights of the Hell Tour, which was kind of cool. Then, and I think by then they had brought in the USMTS mods. Then I got a poster right over here, 2018. It was a 40,000 to win mod show. I can't even remember if they had lates. Maybe they had local lates. So I'm kind of interested just to see, I think this is the second year they're doing this formula. So I'm interested to see the car counts and the fan counts. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, the Masters is kind of the big deal of the weekend. A couple things I'm looking forward to. Devils Lake Speedway, they're having a late model show. They have a really good contingent of late models over at the River City Speedway in Grand Forks, right down the road from Devils Lake. And I know they have them a handful of times a year over there. Great racetrack. I think it's going to be on Darn TV, I believe is what it is a pay-per-view. So you'll be able to catch that racing action. And I talked to Brad Singh, and he said, man, Nolan Olmsted knows how to prep a racetrack. I've never been there. I've been to Devils Lake Speedway many times because I'm actually, a business partner with Nolan on a couple other things. And it's a unique place. Have you guys ever been to Devils Lake?
No, same thing as Toronto for you. I've driven to the track when I was on my way to Minot once, but haven't seen racing.
Yeah, they got a bar restaurant right there. So that's open year-round. So literally you can sit in the restaurant, look out the window, order yourself a steak dinner, right, and watch the races. It's kind of just a peaceful little place. But I talked to Brad Singh, and he said, man, he knows how to prep a track. I got to get there. I have to get to that place for a race. I talked to my buddy Kevin Pappenfuss, used to race a super out there. I said, hey, we're going to go out there. I said, well, we'll have to have some steaks and watch some racing. And obviously I-94 is opening up this week. Hibbing actually had a practice this past weekend. And I'm talking to the folks at the Grand Rapids Speedway. Tentatively right now, it looks like probably the 18th is going to be practice. The 25th is more than likely going to be opener. That's kind of what we're thinking right now. So, a few things have changed in that schedule, but the Masters is 100% what I'm looking forward to. I mean, I've seen some heavy hitters that are going to be there. Really, really good racing. I mean, there's going to be some great mods and some great late models, and you're going to get a full field. So it don't matter if you're an open wheel guy or a fender guy, the two top classes in both are going to be there. I'm expecting a big car count. The weather looks good. And people are so hungry, right? People are so hungry for racing. What I'm excited to see is the atmosphere, right? Because there's no limit on how many people can attend at the Cedar Lake Speedway. You can have as many as you want. And because people are so dang hungry to get to a race, and there's really nothing happening in Minnesota yet, very little, I'm expecting this to be one of the best crowds they've ever had at the Masters.
All right, fellas. Well, good. Well, we're getting close on time, but we do have enough time to do the last lap segment tonight. So we have one to go. Now, Bert, what was the news on the Clash at the Creek? Was there some rumor about, like, there was some sort of cancellation or something? Did you mention something?
No. What happened was the Dirt King Series posted on Facebook that they were races on their schedule that they were canceling, and the last few years the Dirt Kings, they've had a Dirt Kings race on the Tuesday night prior to the Clash at the Creek. Tuesday night is open for modifieds to show up and practice, and then they would run a late model program mixed in with the practice. But for some reason, the late model show has been canceled. But when the Dirt Kings posted it, they posted it as Clash at the Creek is canceled, which made it sound like The whole thing was
Right. Well,
canceled.
that's what I was confused because you talked about the Clash twice tonight about the Clash coming up, and I'm like, well, I thought it was canceled, so I wanted to straighten that out for racing.
Nope, the Clash at the Creek is on. It's a Wednesday, Thursday show. And Ryan, if to entice you more, if you want to show up, there is a year-round bar there, so you can watch the races from a bar too at 141 Speedway.
Nice.
And
hey, how many mods do they get there, Bert? How many mods do they typically get?
They usually get 75 to 85, somewhere in that range. And I mean, you get a lot of big hitters. I mean, several drivers that race at the Masters, they'll convert their cars over to IMCA legal and then come over to 141 Speedway. Like last year, that's what Thornton Jr. did. Jason Hughes did that. Terry Phillips. So, you know, you'll get some of those big hitters from across the country to show up there. And you were mentioning you're expecting a big crowd at Cedar Lake. This is one thing I forgot to mention earlier in the show. You know, the tracks opened this last weekend in eastern Wisconsin, and the fans were ready. Casino Speedway, the grandstands were packed. And, you know, it was good to, even though they encouraged social distancing, it wasn't possible because, I mean, the grandstands were full, which was good to see. I mean, everybody was waiting for racing to start, and there's nothing else to do, actually. So this is actually a good opportunity for local tracks to try to gain some fans, I think, this summer, because so many things have been canceled that, hey, let's go to the races. Let's see what that is all about. So I think a lot of tracks have a good opportunity to gain some fans this summer.
I 100% agree. You know, because like you said, there ain't no youth sports, there's no fairs, there's no concerts, there's no nothing. So once things get rolling, I mean, it's gonna literally be a telltale sign if the person has any ambition running the racetrack or not, because there's no excuse not to be able to get people to the racetrack. So you're exactly right. Hey, how 141 Speedway? How big is that place?
It's a small track. I'm not exactly sure on the size. What's unique about it is corners 1 and 2 are different than 3 and 4. They're not the same. So a lot of drivers they describe it as being like an egg.
Darlington.
So
Darlington.
Okay. I like it already because, you know, I don't like the cookie cutter deals. It's the same all the way around. As a racer, if you have a couple different corners that are totally different, I tell you what, the cream rises to the top. So I might have to make it up to that. That's not too far away from me. That's definitely within driving distance.
Yeah, that's
so
not too far from. Yeah.
Just pay your tolls on the way up there, Ryan. You're an Illinois boy now. So, did you have some comments on the Hibbing practice, Ryan?
No, I just on a whim. You know, they've been working with the city over there in Hibbing, trying to get things rolling. And just on a whim, they got the okay from the city of Hibbing that yes, you guys can have an organized practice, can't have people in the grandstands. They're not quite sure they're going to be ready to open up. I don't believe that they're going to open up on Saturday. I think they're still a ways out. Minnesota's still kind of in a little bit of a tight spot right now. They kind of have the 250 maximum allowed in the grandstands. And guys, if you've been, you've been to Hibbing many times. They got a big grandstand. The place holds 5,000 people. I mean, they got 3 whole different sections to the grandstands. Plus, they have a fenced-in area that were for like our motorhome parking and vehicle parking. 250 there makes. I mean, not that the social distancing makes any sense anymore. Anyway, it's ridiculous, especially with what went on last week. Let's be honest, it's just stupid now, right? But the fact of the matter is, it's not the same. If your grandstands holds 500 people, it's different than if it holds 5,000. So just the whole logic of Minnesota with this crap is just pissing me off. It really is. I've been pretty politically correct with this deal for the most part, right? But now with all that's happened, it's literally just pissing me off. Like, there is absolutely no excuse. They got to get their head out of their ass and let's go racing.
Yeah,
so you're saying you're upset?
No, I'm good now.
All right, Bert, did you wanted to conclude here with the sprints down at Beaver Dam?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. They had a doubleheader at Beaver Dam. It was a schedule change because some other races they had to cancel on their schedule. and Brad Sweet did a sweep, and he won the $6,000 feature on Friday night, and then a $10,000 feature on Saturday night. So it was a good weekend for him.
Picture. Yeah, sorry about that. Keep going there.
Oh,
Bert.
yeah, it was a good weekend for him. And yeah, I guess there was there were some rocks flying around. One of the drivers had posted a picture on Facebook of their helmet, and the visor was cracked. And apparently, according to the Facebook post, it didn't stop him though. He kept going in the race. But yeah, and Brad Sweet has a 28-point lead on Donnie Schatz right now in the sprint car, in the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series.
Yeah, those two are 1-2. Surprise, surprise. Puka, do you remember back? Oh man, it had to have been 15 years ago, maybe. Do you remember Jeff Tardy took a rock to the shield, and I think he broke his jaw, wasn't he? Didn't he?
And Proctor?
Yeah, he broke his. And didn't he? Wasn't he like eating through a straw for a little while after that? Wasn't he?
Yeah, break a jaw. Yeah, that's what happened. I know, as a matter of fact, one of the Kaufmans from Cedar Lake, their son took a puck to the jaw when he was playing Division I hockey out in Ohio. And yeah, same thing. You lose if you want a great diet plan, break your jaw, suck out of a straw for a couple months, you'll wipe off 20 to 30 pounds.
Here, let me write that down.
Yeah. All right, and just to conclude tonight, we just want to wish a happy birthday out to I don't know if she is still competing in late models, but she's at least a former late model competitor. Bert and I have seen her run some laps at Cedar Lake at the USA National, but Jill George has a birthday coming up here on June 10th, and since she is such a pretty lady, I will not reveal her age. All right.
She's already been racing this year. I think I believe she raced either last week or a couple weeks ago. I saw a picture on Facebook of her car all ready to go, so she's been racing already this year.
And a track star at Drake, I believe. She had like a decathlete, I believe. She was a super athlete, I believe, at Drake, where the Drake relays are. So anything else, fellas?
No, that's it. Just excited. I think the weather looks good for the Masters. So, if I head up there, it's going to be for Saturday. I'm not going to head up there for the whole weekend, but definitely looking forward to get up there. And, we're getting closer and closer to racing happening in Minnesota and Illinois. And I'm anxious for that to happen. I'm getting jealous of these other states, but I guess I can't be too jealous. I'm close enough to a few of them tracks where I could drive there if I really wanted to.
Anything else, Bert?
No, I'm looking forward to the season and really start picking up steam now. And we have 2 more tracks opening this weekend in eastern Wisconsin. Outgaming Speedway in Seymour, Wisconsin opens Friday. And the racetrack in Luxembourg, they're calling it the Berg this year. New promoters this year, they open on Sunday night. So,
all right,
so we're almost,
like Bert said,
we're almost full steam.
yeah, full steam. Like, it doesn't necessarily feel like it, but I mean, we are, we're next week, we're in the middle of June, so, as little racing we had in racing sense, it feels like it's May 15th, but we're really June 15th. So, if you get a chance, get out there, support your local dirt track. They're going to need your support more than ever this year, of course, with everything that's going on. And as always, get out there and be your dream. You're tuned to the One to Go show.